Welcome to the Way to Go podcast. I'm Bill McMahon. Along with me is Mark Hostetler. We did take a few weeks off for the first time in, I think that's the first break we've taken in like a year.
It really is. I mean, it wasn't even a few weeks. It was just 2 days. I mean,
it was a few episodes. Yeah. It was a Tuesday and Wednesday. It feels like forever.
Right.
I have one
You're
week.
right. It does.
Mark, give me 1 week of not writing this show.
You're right.
Coming into this week, it's already falling off my radar because I take myself out of that pattern. I've been writing shows so continuously for this podcast.
And you've been doing a great job, too. I appreciate your work you're putting into this podcast.
No,
I hope all of you do as well.
Yeah, I hope it's beneficial.
We really hope this is making a difference in all of your lives, all of our lives. So
yeah, and sometimes, we talk about, we were talking about Dr. James Stalker and the 7 deadly sins, which I think we finished that up now, but today we're going to talk about Memorial Day. But then, what we get to talk about sometimes, just what do I feel like talking about when I'm writing podcasts? What's interesting to me? And but with Memorial Day coming up this weekend, I thought it'd be well worth taking a look at that, and especially, a little bit of the history of it, where it came about after the Civil War. Yeah. They would have Decoration Day or Memorial Day, and there was nothing like set. It was like different towns would do different things, and then there was one, I forget if he was a colonel or general, and he said that, it's going to always be the 30th day of May, and so communities got behind it, but it never got locked down as an official type holiday until 1968. Dude, I did not know that.
What was it? 71.
71, but the Congress passed it in 68.
I see. Okay.
It got enacted in 71. Congress, it takes them forever, but it was
it's like an act of Congress.
Yeah, exactly. In 1968 they decided they were going to do it. In 1971 it got enacted that it actually became an official holiday. Well, I don't remember it not being Memorial Day not being a holiday.
Because everybody observed it.
Well, I was a kid. I was born. It just
wasn't a holiday.
Right. I was born. I was alive before it became a holiday. But I just don't really recall it. I just thought I thought it forever was. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking 100 years. 100 years later. I mean, it's 1865 or so, Civil War ends. And in the late 60s, 1860s, they started to make national cemeteries, actually.
Yeah, you're over 150 years.
Because it was 620,000 people died in the Civil War.
Really?
620,000 people.
That's a lot.
Yeah, well, they said I just looked it up. I mean, I that's according to the Google,
they might be counting too, everybody who died, like civilians and everyone, as far as, I
mean, the World War II had 405,399 people die.
The Civil War is the deadliest conflict.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The next one down from Civil War is 215,000 people.
Right.
That's incredible to me, man. The loss this nation endured it's just incredible to me.
It is, but when you think about how long ago that was, I mean, you're looking at 156 years ago since the Civil War ended, because you got 1865, so another 35 years, and then another 100 years, and then another 21. I mean, it just.
Well, that's what baffles my mind. That's why I brought up 100 years. I mean, it takes 100 years to start nationally. Making it a holiday to actually celebrate the people that gave their lives.
They
for this
always
nation,
did it. They were always doing it.
I know, but I'm saying for our government to recognize it. Come on, 100 years later.
Yeah. I see what you're saying with the 100 years. Yeah, it was 100 years between kind of after the Civil War to the time when they were actually enacting it. Yeah, I would agree with that. But it's something even today, you'll see if you go by, even on Foreman Road, there's this little cemetery. Maybe there's 20 graves in there. Maybe there's not. There's not many, but you'll see flags come up. I mean, whatever I don't even know who are the organizations that go and put flags. Was it the VFW?
It might be.
Yeah, I mean, somebody goes and decorates all these, and you'll see the little holders, little flag holders that they have there, and it'll mark the war that somebody was in. And they'll come and they'll put a little flag in it. Grave markers.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad. It's sad to see. I mean, I appreciate it from the depth of my heart, man. I appreciate those men and women that fought for our freedoms, and that gave their life ultimately to make sure that me and you and all of us watching can enjoy the freedoms of this nation, And it's sad to me to know that they had to come to that end, but I do appreciate it. And I it's something that I try to tell my children all the time. We appreciate our military people. I mean, we really do.
Our church is pretty pro-military. We had a pro-military breakfast.
Yeah. And that turned out great.
Yeah.
And so we went down to the Ark Encounter over the weekend and the Creation Museum, and it was great to see my sons Like when an old man would walk by with a hat on,
right?
They just walk over and shake his hand and, hey, thank you for your service, you know? And it was just like, that's really good to see, guys. You know, I like it. They appreciate our military, you know?
Well, there's a lot of people, especially, well, depending on what war. I mean, even the conflicts that we've had in the Middle East, certainly the Vietnam War isn't so long ago that there aren't people living from that war. And you think about some of the things, the stories you hear, even of what they saw. It's like, wow, you know, some guy replaced me on the day that I was going to go down. You know, I was on a boat. They were patrolling the rivers, and the guy that replaced me got killed. And I still live, and they live with that because the guy's like, well, I couldn't go that day, so my friend took my spot. He got killed. It should have been me. I think there's just a lot of things people wrestle with and a lot of things that they've seen.
I think you're right, Bill. Last night we had our prayer meeting here at church, and one of the ladies that was praying, her husband was part of the Vietnam War. He was a Green Beret. I was praying for the people that grieve the loss of those that have passed away. And then she backed it right up with, I pray for the one that has survivor guilt.
Right.
You know, and is wrestling through that survivor guilt from, you know, their best friend passed away right next to them. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, whoo, that's hard to even imagine, you know?
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think of the sacrifices that these people made. And I remember the story of raising the flag on Iwo Jima became one of the most iconic and celebrated photos.
Love that photo.
Perhaps in military history. I mean, it really, that guy just nailed it. And they rose it. They put a flag up, said it wasn't big enough. Not everyone could see it. Those guys were really fighting. And so they rose another. But at least half those guys in that flag raising were killed on Iwo Jima.
Wow.
They got two of them out. One guy was wounded, and they pulled another guy out off of there, because they wanted to actually have these guys go around. They made a movie about it. But you think about what they went through, you know, the sacrifices. These guys who raised that flag were in those photos didn't even make it off that island.
And they were told that.
Right.
Like a lot of them were told, hey, guys, make sure you're right with your maker because you probably won't come back out of this.
Right.
You know what I mean? And they went in. I mean, that is courage, man. You know, that is
well, valor. I mean, one of the things we're talking about, there's a lot of valor. We had a couple of World War II veterans in Eagleville that I got a chance to talk to before they passed away, and one was a Jeep driver. And I don't think he was on Iwo Jima. He was on another. He said there were actually others. That's a very celebrated one that were even worse. All these little islands that they were jumping around. And he said that they would lower the gate. They would bring these amphibious vehicles. You would have an officer. He would have an officer with him. They would lower the gates, and you would drive onto the beach with people shooting at you. And he said, I said, how do you do that? He said, everyone else is doing it.
Yeah.
Like there was a famous store incident where, you know, they beheaded a bunch of GIs over there. The Japanese did. And he actually drove the priest to pray over them. Like it was such a famous story. And he was the one that, you know, drove the priest. But he said the guy that was driving Jeep next to him, they came off right next to him, got killed. Oh. So here you are. And then another guy, he said that they would fly missions over, and they had to do 29, I think it was, missions as a bomber pilot before they would be released. And he said that when you were out, like you wanted to get shot at because your mission didn't count unless you did. And he said one day they were trying to find anti-aircraft gun that was on the shore across the English Channel. They just kept tempting the guy and tempting the guy and tempting the guy, flying around in circles until they finally shot at him because they were like, we're not putting this plane down until this counts as a mission.
Oh my goodness.
It was so dangerous. Wow. I mean, what these guys were doing, I mean, the life expectancy of a pilot was like 19 hours.
Oh my goodness.
It was so ridiculous. They were getting killed left and right. I talked to another guy. He used to fly the Mustangs, I think it was, and where they would come down and strafe you, and he said they would have a bomb on each wing, and he said sometimes what would happen is they'd release the bombs and only one bomb would release. He goes, when you're flying a plane like that and one bomb comes off and the other doesn't, you're done. You're flying that low to the ground. There was no chance to recover.
Yeah.
And he said this kind of stuff happened all the time to these guys, so it was really...
Yeah, and my heart breaks also for the people struggling with what you're talking about right now. There's people right now on my prayer list that I pray for PTSD right now.
Right.
You know, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Right.
You know, because of what they've gone through, man.
Right.
I mean, that is trauma. Man.
Right.
I mean, you wake up in the middle of the night with night sweats. You can't get back to sleep. You're having nightmares and terrors and back in those, you kind of question yourself, you know, and all that. And I can't even imagine it, man. God bless all of our people that have had to endure that. And you're right; they are so full of valor, courage, bravery, man. And I just, I salute.
It wasn't as surgical back in the old days either. I mean, you're dropping bombs. He said when he would go strafe a train, he said they were so close. You know, when they would lay down gunfire on a train, you could see the people. They're civilians and everything. You see their faces and their eyes and everything.
Goodness.
That's how close they were to them.
Yeah, like Israel just a couple of weeks ago, you know, taking out precision, taking out those buildings and stuff like that. It was nothing like that. They just came through and,
you're carpet bombing.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they were doing, the Germans were doing it to England, and England's doing it to them, and Americans were doing it to the Germans.
Vietnam, the napalm, you know, just burning the whole, you know, it's like, oh my goodness, man. I mean, I tell you, I'm so
we're blessed not to be there.
Yeah.
I mean, we really are. And Memorial Day is to remember those who've laid down their lives for us so that we didn't have to go. Because of all these wars, you think of World War I, World War II, especially Korean conflict, Vietnam. I was at the tail end of the Vietnam era. I was one of the first ones to be you had to go sign up for the draft again, like in my day. And it was in a time, it was right, I think, before Reagan became president. And they you had to go sign up for the draft, which I did.
Was that like Cold War kind of stuff?
I don't even remember what they were doing. There wasn't a lot going on. But the thing is, I never got drafted because there was no need for me to be drafted.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing going on. There was relative peace for years. And so I always felt very fortunate. I would have done whatever I needed to do, just like any other American that was called into the military. Hey, if that's what I'm called to do and that's what I have to do, I'm going to do it. But there was always a piece of me, trust me, that as a young man was very thankful that I didn't have to do what these guys had to do, that I didn't have to see that. And I appreciate their sacrifice.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ said, greater love is no one than this, and he laid down his life for his friends. And you think about Christ's sacrifice for us, you think about him laying down his life for his friends. That's what sacrifice is.
Yeah, he should know. You know, because Mark 10:45 says, even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many.
Right.
You know, he did that.
Right.
Jesus Christ gave us the example of what sacrifice looks like. You know, he didn't deserve it. He shouldn't have been on that cross. I should have been the one on that cross. And he took my place, you know. That's why I love him.
Right.
Because he first loved me. He showed me that by demonstrating his love toward me while I was still in sinful ways. He died on that cross.
Yeah.
And when so many people right now are trying to take advantage of the freedoms of this nation, there are still people out there willing to lay down their lives to make sure that we have our freedom.
Right.
It's like spitting in their face, man.
Right.
Stop taking advantage of the freedoms we have in this nation. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate them. Pray for our military people. Support them, you know?
Well, I think that's patriotism. I think that what you're talking about right there, I mean, you got a bunch of people who will visit graves. They'll take Memorial Day. They'll be serious about it. They'll try to remember. Others, like they said, now Memorial Day has become just a day off. It's become a day families get together. You have picnics, maybe go to a ball game. It's not per se that same sense of meaning. But what you're talking about there is where, you know, appreciate the freedom and appreciate what we have, be patriotic, honor your military. I fear there are some ways in our country that patriotism is being lost. I used to be proud to be an American. I still am. Proud of my flag, you know, proud of our nation. Felt we're the best nation on the planet. Had a lot of pride in that, even though I shouldn't have been prideful per se. I mean, I was born where God had me be born. It could have been Africa, it could have been the Philippines, could have been South America, anywhere. I happen to be born in the United States. I'm very blessed to have been born into the United States. But sometimes we have so much, I don't know that always our young people really appreciate what's been done for this country. I don't know that they appreciate the sacrifice it took or what the military goes through. And even though they might not want to go to it, you got to appreciate the people who are willing to put their lives on the line. And people who have died. There are a lot of kids, you know, 18, 19, 20 years old, a lot of young guys even in their 30s. And I'm not trying to limit ages. I'm just saying there's a lot of people younger who didn't have a chance to experience the life that we do.
Yeah.
Like I'm older now. I've had a chance to experience life. I didn't have somebody snipe me out. Didn't get blown up and lose my life and never have a chance to have my kids, never have a chance to raise kids, do something in this world other than fight, right?
Yeah.
You know, come off maybe, you know, get out of high school and go fight in some foreign country. I wasn't called to do that. But I think there has to be respect, and that's what this day was for. There's got to be respect for the tremendous sacrifices that people have made.
I love how Reagan, in the speech he made in 1985, I think it was, he said a lot of times we think of these men as old, wise, bearded, gray-haired men. Right. He says these were young boys, 20 years old, 19 years old, that just gave their lives to the cause of freedom.
Right.
We have this picture of these older people. It's not true.
No.
It's young men.
Right.
18 to 25 years old. That's who's dying. And it's like, my goodness, you're right. They didn't just give up the life they were living. They were giving up the life they could have lived.
Right.
And that's some of the most heart-wrenching videos is those the soldiers coming up to the door and telling the wife and the family they're not coming home.
Right.
And it's like,
or what about that mom where
goodness,
5 of the brothers or 4 of the 5 brothers, got killed, and it was just unbelievable. I think they were on the same ship or something, so that kind of made it, one went down. Obviously, they all went down with it, but
I think there's every community. I could probably say that with confidence. Every community has been affected by it in some way.
At some point.
At some point or another,
right.
We have people in our church family that they've experienced this loss.
I know, I agree with you, but I wonder sometimes, you see memorials, you see artillery, you see flags, poles. There's monuments in Ashtabula, I'm pretty sure Jefferson, all these towns. There's little memorial plaques of who served, who went, who lost their lives. It almost seems like at this point maybe old-fashioned. Like you see something like that, and it just maybe the artwork of it, or somehow seems so far removed. But I still think we need to remember and honor it in all the years that we
Jefferson has a beautiful memorial right there in the center of town, right in the center. Right. It's right by the Chinese restaurant or whatever it is. That
one. I know which one you're talking about. Yeah,
yeah, it's nice. Right. I mean, yeah.
But we don't pay attention. We go by. We blow by these little places. I just don't think and this is a weekend to at least think about it. But there was, when I read the book on Iwo Jima that had been written, it was super interesting, but there's one guy that got killed, and it talked about his tattoo, and on his arm was tattooed, "Death before dishonor."
Oh, wow.
And I've often thought about that saying, death before dishonor, that I'd rather die before I'm dishonored.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that communicates allegiance. I haven't ever been in the military, so I'm not really skilled on the lingo of military people. They have their lingo, and that's cool.
Right.
Marines will say "semper fi," and "semper fi" is always faithful or always loyal to each other. And always loyal to the nation. Well, for me, I think as a Christian, I've thought about it. Like, I'd rather die before I dishonor Christ. I'd rather die before I dishonor my family. The death before dishonor is a saying for all of us, really. Yeah. That applies to all of us. I'd rather be dead than I would dishonor. Right? I agree. Yeah. So, I think it's a great statement and one to remember. I actually have a T-shirt. I'm pretty sure it's on Death Before Dishonor. Is some guy, a company they made. He was a famous military tattooist, and he made T-shirts of his tattoos, and that's one of them, Death Before Dishonor. And I have it on T-shirt. I usually only wear it on like patriotic days, so I'll get it out if I'm at a flea market somewhere on July 4th, or I'm out on Memorial Day. I'll get that T-shirt out and I'll wear it on that day because it's patriotic. That's incredible. Yeah. But anyway, to appreciate too, that Christ has set us free, that he died for us, and it says in Galatians 5:1 is for freedom that Christ has set you free. Stand firm. Do not yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. And I think the slavery of sin or whatever it is, we're free. And freedom means this: you have choices. And the beauty of what Christ has done for us too, and the sacrifice he made, we have choices. Just like we have freedom in America, and we can choose to go to a ball game or not, and where we go to school or not, what we're wearing today. You chose your shirt today. I chose mine. We have freedom for all these things. Spiritually, we also have freedom. We can make choices. Absolutely. I love how it says, do not put yourself back under the yoke of slavery. Right. I think we as a nation, them words have to be heralded out there. Guys, be careful. The choices you're making, they will lead us into slavery or they'll lead us into more freedom. Right. Choose wisely, guys. Right. Choose wisely, with whether that comes to, doing your research before you make that vote. You know what I'm saying? And really paying attention. Make your voice heard. Right. Stand up for the people that can't stand up for themselves. Right. Use your freedom to serve the nation, to serve each other for freedom's sake. Right. freedom never comes free.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It always has a cost. And for us sitting here right now, talking about Memorial Day, the cost was the lives of so many that went out and
the
fought.
freedom. Yeah, and the freedom we have comes with the responsibility. Freedom without responsibility is anarchy. I mean,
That's
you can't
exactly
have freedom. Doesn't mean I do whatever I want. Freedom means I do stuff within the laws, within the land, and like you say, using that freedom for a good cause, using that freedom to help others. Yes. Well, we appreciate you tuning in, and I hope the show's been a blessing to you. Have a great and an awesome week.